I got 3 chefs and their mashed potato recipes. They're gonna face off against each other. We're gonna find out which one is the best. Cage match? Yeah. It's a cage match. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to my home. Get comfy, but be alert. It is fight night after all, and well, I am looking for a perfect mashed potato recipe, but what does that mean? Buttery mash, not gluey. Potato chunks are cool with me. Creamy is a must. But like the steps we take to get there and just the overall flavors, I'm gonna let creativity fly. With that all being said, who do we got this week? Well, he's earned his keep. He won the previous roast chicken cage match, and now he's back for more. He gets a free pass into this one. That's the legendary French chef, Jacques Pépin. And next up, we have someone I haven't seen around these parts in a long while. In fact, she was in the very first cage match ever. She split the win, and then she bounced. It's Marcella Hazan, the authority of Italian cooking in my kitchen, at least. And then, of course, we know him well. It's the fine dining king himself, Thomas Keller. Well, the rules are such. I'm gonna follow along to each one of these recipes as closely as an anti-chef can. May the best mash win. Let's break! First round, Jacques Pépin and the Essential Pépin Cookbook. So we're gonna start off with the reigning champion here. Of course, he's earned it. And it's garlic mashed potatoes. And just saying that out loud, I'm thinking, like, is this gonna be a repeat? Is he gonna go for 2 in a row? So this is a recipe that is inspired from his Aunt Amy, who made, quote unquote, the best garlic mashed potatoes. Well, we're gonna put the potatoes to the test here, Auntie Amy's, and find out if that's indeed true. Everything else that he's saying is basically what we're about to do. So, yeah. We're gonna be working with Yukon Gold potatoes for the whole day. It is a waxy potato. It is ideal for mashed potatoes, and I have a big bag, 10 pounds worth, but for Jacques' recipe, I only need 2. So I guess we have a lot of peeling to do today, so I thought I'd dust off my Rotato Express because I am in pursuit of becoming the spokesperson for this product that I found at a thrift store, but I think it does a great job. I got my mom and my mother-in-law one for Christmas. That's how much I love it. Thing is that these potatoes are rather small, so I don't even know if this is gonna be a worthwhile experience, but I have a backup plan. Peel it. It takes you around 85 to 90% there. Is it worth it? I'll let you decide that. Cut into around 2-inch pieces, or that will work. This will get the potatoes to boil faster. Any nasty parts of the potatoes, just kind of poke them out. Peeled potatoes go into a pot, and then you cover it with cold water. All right, over here. 4 unpeeled garlic cloves, 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Once that's up to a boil, I'm gonna turn it down to a gentle simmer. 22 minutes later, those potatoes are tender, very tender. Check out the tender test. I don't know what that revealed. So multiple different ways to mash the potatoes. He says either a food mill, which is what I'm using, or a ricer. And if you're gonna use those 2 options, then you don't have to peel the garlic. You just throw it into the pot like I did. But if you're gonna mash the potatoes by hand, peel the garlic. In terms of the food mill plate here, I'm gonna use the middle one here. So the holes aren't super small or super big. This side up. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not like the biggest fan of this thing. It sometimes is a pain in the old butt, but it does its job. It does its job. First, drain, and then have the potatoes fall into the food mill. Save your potato water for a moment, not right now, but for soups, for stocks. When I'm making my own mashed potatoes, I like to add it in with the potatoes, like to make it a little more creamy. But we're not doing that. Let's mash or mill or whatever it's called. I used to have a pet name for this food mill, but I haven't used it in a while, so I forgot it. Millhouse. You move clockwise until it becomes kind of useless, and then you kind of backtrack a little bit, so clear away, and then you go clockwise again. Pretty happy with that performance there. 4 tablespoons of butter. Once the butter has been mixed in and it's melted, 1 cup of milk. With the addition of the milk, that became creamy to the max. Just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. 1/8 teaspoon of freshly cracked black pepper. All right, these are incredibly creamy, very smooth. I'm intrigued. Order up! I'm gonna be eating these dishes as soon as they're ready today to enjoy them at their peak. Because with mashed potatoes, well, that counts. That's what I think about that, but I'm not going to tell you just yet until the very end when I have tried all 3 recipes. Moving on. Today's match is sponsored by Made In. And I've been using Made In cookware for years now. This carbon steel griddle basically lives on my stovetop. It lets you cook a ton of food on here at once without having to juggle a whole bunch of pans. It takes up 2 burners and you got this whole cooking surface to work with. Griddle is incredibly versatile. You can use it on gas, electric, induction, outdoors on the grill, and because it's carbon steel, you can crank the heat way up. You get an amazing crust on burgers, pancakes, steaks, comes pre-seasoned and naturally non-stick right out of the box. But the more you use it, the better it gets. What I've always liked about Made In is that they make professional quality cookware for home cooks. Their cookware is used by chefs in over 4,000 restaurants, but still feels practical for everyday cooking at home. All their stuff is crafted in the US, Europe, Japan. It's solid, it's durable, cookware that can actually take abuse. And you can check out the Made In carbon steel griddle as well as their other cookware, and you can use the link in my description. Save on your order. Thank you, Made In. Back to work I go. Second round, Marcella Hazan. Essentials of classic Italian cooking. So we're coming at you with a different type entirely. This is a Bolognese style, mashed potatoes with milk and Parmesan cheese. Slightly more words to the page here. So we're gonna be using the same type of potatoes as, well, all the potato recipes are the same. It's Yukon Gold. She says a waxy boiling potato, but that's what this is. She's asking for old boiling potatoes, and I knew that was going to come up. So I have these potatoes off frame here that I've had for like a week or 2 or something like that. So I'm going to consider these ones the old ones. So I need 1 pound worth. What is that? It's exactly 1 pound. That was a good, that's really not that much. 1 pound of potatoes. That's what that is. That's 1 pound of potatoes. How is that supposed to serve 4 to 6 people? I'll just switch pots in that case. So the 2 potatoes into this, and then I cover amply with water. Amply. It's keeping the potatoes whole and unpeeled. Get the lid on and up to a boil. 40 minutes later. Look how much longer it takes when the potatoes are whole. Check if they're tender with the fork, but you can't puncture them too much or they're gonna become waterlogged. Drain. They're still hot, but they're manageable. I need to peel. Not really sure why you have to peel them after the fact. It would have been just easier to do it before. There must be a reason. But Jacques didn't do that, so I don't know. Yeah, maybe Marcella just didn't have the Rotato Express. That's possible. 2, we gotta make a double boiler. So a saucepan with water, but it can't be touching the bowl that's about to go on top. Why did I do that? This water's coming up to a simmer. Into the top bowl here goes 3 tablespoons of butter. So we're gonna bring over Millhouse, the whatever. And I'm gonna be using the same grating plate as I did before. Is that gonna work? Please tell me that's gonna work. Okay. Potatoes go in. Start mashing and it goes directly in with the butter in the top bowl. Okay, that's kind of awkward, Marcella. I don't see what the harm is in just taking this off the double boiler. You know what? Okay, I'll just do it her way, whatever. It's just awkward. Mash the potatoes through the food mill directly onto the butter. That's what she's telling me to do. I feel like this doesn't have to... I feel like we could have just taken... I feel like the step could be streamlined. This whole blob is not going through, but honestly, it's just mash with slight potato chunks, but I'm just gonna throw it in there. So that's done, that step sucked. Separately, I have, what is this, half a cup of milk that goes into a small saucepan over yonder. So once the milk is nearly at a boil, I'm adding 2 to 3 tablespoons at a time, mixing with a fork or a whisk. Can you see? 2 to 3 tablespoons at a time, a little, and the whisk is not gonna work, so I don't know why that's an option. There you go. With the fork works. Once you've added in half the milk, switch to the Parmesan cheese. You need 1/3 cup. In it goes. Beat that in. Once that's smooth, resume with the milk. Does the whisk work? The whisk works now. The whisk is working now, and you don't stop whisking until your arm needs a break. I'm good. I'm good. Potatoes are going to turn very soft and become a fluffy mass, and that was like instant. Once I started using the whisk, it's a state that requires constant beating and as much milk as the potatoes will absorb before becoming thin and runny. Okay, now what do? You add salt to your taste buds. Add salt to taste. Whole nutmeg as much as you want. What? I should figure out. A tiny grating. Perfect. Quick like a bunny, you gotta serve these at once. In you go. It really doesn't create that much potatoes. How is that supposed to serve 4 to 6? We have to drastically shrink down to a bowl that's gonna make this work. Order up. I just want to cross my T's and dot my lowercase j's here. I want to make sure that what I did was exactly 1 pound of potatoes. Yeah, was. Okay, and then there was one. Final round, Thomas Keller, an ad hoc at home cookbook. All right, so we're going with a puree of garlic potatoes, so garlic mashed potatoes. Jacques and him are about to duke it out. Classic Keller over here. I need a garlic confit and oil. So I need a cup of peeled garlic cloves with the root ends cut off. Into a small saucepan, I gotta add enough canola oil to cover them by about 1 inch. Set the saucepan on a diffuser. I don't have one, so I'm just gonna use my griddle. Extra medium low because this is carbon steel. So this garlic's gotta cook gently with very small bubbles. Gotta keep stirring every 5 minutes. After 40 minutes, pierce the tip of a knife into it. Yep. Remove from the heat and allow the garlic to cool in the oil. So, I was commenting about how many potatoes Marcella was using in her recipe, which was only 1 pound worth. It was going to serve 4 to 6 people, apparently. This is supposed to serve 6 people, and we're using 4 times that amount. That's more like it. 4 pounds worth of potatoes. And he says the ones that are around 2 inches in diameter. So let me just grab the bigger ones. So I'm gonna cover with about 2 inches of cold water. Is that okay there? Now I had to look up why we start with cold water, because anytime I do this sort of thing, I think I just add the potatoes into the boiling water already, but it's to ensure even cooking. So that makes sense. And listen to this, 1/4 cup of sugar goes into that water. So already vastly different than the other recipes. Bring it to a simmer. Maintaining a gentle simmer with those potatoes until they were tender enough to puree. So the book said this would take 20 minutes. I'm not gonna lie, these became tender around an hour. I've let these cool a little bit so that I can touch them, and they've steamed. Quickly peel, still hot, still hot. I am in favor of peeling them before boiling them, but I'm sure there's some sort of benefit to this that I don't realize. If I find out post video, I will post it right here. 2 cups of heavy cream. to a saucepan. I'm gonna heat this up and then I'm gonna keep it warm. All right, here we go again with the old mill house here. Food mill. It's the same plate that I was using with the other two, which is like the middle of the road. Not too small a hole, not too big. And a quarter of the potatoes in there now. A grand total of 8 tablespoons of butter. I gotta add 2 tablespoons in now to start. So I got my garlic confit here, and I need to use a quarter cup worth in these potatoes. Now, is it a quarter cup of just the garlic cloves, or is it the oil and the cloves? That's an incredible question that I don't have the answer to. I think that when we're adding the garlic confit, we got to be smart about this. Mostly cloves, but with some of the oil, because the oil has a lot of flavor in there too. And 1/4 of a quarter cup worth. All right, and then we just rotate this around back and forth until it all goes through the mill. Yeah, it's probably gonna take around 20 minutes, so it's kind of like a hurry up and wait situation. It's a lot of fun. And once you feel like you're ready to add the next batch, do so. This is the second quarter, and then it's 2 tablespoons of butter and then a little more of the garlic confit. And then we just keep doing it in quarters until you guessed it, it's all been pureed. Heat the potatoes back up on the stove. Then while they're heating, I can add in the hot 2 cups of cream. He says to whip it in, but I think using a whisk would be a pain in the ass, so I think this is working. That looks good to me. All right, now you gotta season to taste. I'm just gonna use my handy herb scissors here to sprinkle my 1 tablespoon of minced chives on top. And then lastly, it says a spoonful of butter on the very top. And I think that's all he wrote. Order up. The results are in, and it's all very shocking. Here's the dealio. There is no dealio. Let's get straight into this. As per usual, I have written all my thoughts, my immediate thoughts after tasting each one of these dishes is all right here. Otherwise, I would forget. So excuse me while I read off this thing and tell you what I think. Jacques Pépin's Aunt Amy's inspired garlic mashed potatoes. First of all, the uber creamy to the extreme. The butter level I found was on point. But here's where things start getting a little dicey for Monsieur Pépin. The flavor of the garlic was very subtle. Like, for something called garlic mashed potatoes, I think you would need to times the amount of garlic by 2. It also had a heavy flavor of milk in there. When I'm adding that kind of thing into the mashed potatoes, I don't necessarily want to taste it so much because it's there to help make it creamy, right? And just to kind of make it a mash. For this one, it was like heavy milk, not a lot of garlic, under-seasoned, and just not a lot to remember. Underwhelming. See, the thing is, the techniques and steps were there. It was the amount of each ingredient, which I found was like... So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 for recipe, and for flavor, yeah, 5.5 out of 10. Big fans of Jacques Pépin over here. He's the reigning cage match champion, but this ain't his day. This ain't it. Next up, Marcella Hazan's mashed potatoes with milk and Parmesan cheese. First of all, the Parmesan cheese is lights out. Holy crapola. I found the butter level was good too. It was working for me. And it didn't have a big taste of milk like Jacques did. And we did add half the amount of milk, but at the same time we were using half the amount of potatoes. So this recipe was weird to me. I just found it to be kind of odd in places, starting with the 1 pound of potatoes. I know she said it would become very soft and a fluffy mass, and I thought we got it there, but it's not like it multiplied the amount of food. Harsh, but fair. Also, I found the texture to be overly thick. The recipe I found was a 5.5 out of 10. There was just too many things that had me asking questions. But the flavor, 7 out of 10. And it's mostly because of the Parmesan cheese. That is a game changer in my eyes. So if there's one takeaway, it's that. So let's see if the tide turns here. Thomas Keller's puree of garlic potatoes, garlic mashed potatoes. That's what I'm talking about. The garlic was on the level you want. These aren't mashed potatoes with a little garlic. They are garlic mashed potatoes, and the garlic flavor is the highlight of this one. That garlic confit did its job. And I have a bunch left over, and it says in the book that you can just store it in an airtight container at room temperature for 1 to 2 days. So I have a lot of eating to do. Don't come in for a kiss. These ones had a nice creaminess to them. I added a lot of cream to them, but it differs from Jacques in the milk, whereas like I could pick up the milk in his. This, you could take a bite and you're not thinking, oh, I'm just eating a whole bunch of cream. It was just helping with the creaminess without adding like that flavor of cream. Good butter content. Ha ha ha. Why did I laugh there? So the one recurring thing that all 3 recipes shared, I'm gonna bring it up right at the end here, is that they're all hovering around that gummy texture area. And the connection here is, of course, the food mill. I think now that I've had all 3 of those, I prefer a mashed potato that has been mashed by hand, where you're getting a little randomness in there with the textures. There's like some potato chunks and then some of it's mashed, and it's just like a nice combination. But with this and it all being mashed into this like, yes, kind of like a gummy, yeah, it's like more of a puree, and that's fine, but I think I know my preference now. So I'm gonna give his recipe an 8 out of 10, and flavor-wise, I think I'll also give an 8. So that's a solid score today, up against, in my eyes, a couple disappointing dishes. Keller was able to dethrone Jacques Pépin and keep Marcella Hazan and that amazing addition of Parmesan cheese and mashed potatoes at bay. So that's no easy feat. He did a good job. But I am standing here like a little underwhelmed and just not blown away by the results. I was expecting a mashed potato recipe that was gonna blow my head off. I honestly thought that one of these recipes today was gonna be the best mashed potatoes I've ever tried. And definitely not the case. I've had better. I've made better. I can almost guarantee that there will be a mashed potato cage match sequel down the road. I already have the wheels turning with that. So I'm gonna skedaddle. This was a mashed potato cage match. Bon appetit. Au revoir.